Welcome to another episode of Sitar Gurukul. Today, as you can see, that I'm not holding the sitar, instead I'm holding a pair of tablas. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, already know what tablas are. Some of you perhaps know what the instrument is, but just don't know how they work. And for those of you who had no idea that a pair of drums like these existed, this video is for you. The tabla is a native classical drum, a pair of drums that belongs to the Southeast Asia. It is probably the national drum of the entire Southeast Asia, but it is so popular, it is considered to be one of the most popular versions of drums, and you can find it globally. We from Gurukul Online Learning Network have a dedicated tabla tutorial series as well, and Ratan Kumar Das, the instructor, has done his job beautifully. It's still ongoing, just like the sitar lessons, and I'll be sure to post the link of the page down in the description below, and you can start watching from episode 1, and you're going to get a better idea of what the tabla is in more detail. So I'm going to skip that in-depth introduction of the tabla. Today I'm here with the tabla mainly because we are going to need some tabla knowledge in order for us to execute the further lessons, also the taans that we have been learning. So that's why I'm here with the tabla today. Before I dig into the main portion of today's lesson, allow me to kind of give you an overview of what the tabla is. So both of these together as a pair is called the tabla. So there is no one who is going to play just the right hand drum or just the left hand drum. The right hand drum is also called the daina, what it is in some parts of the world, and mostly in some parts of also India. It itself, the right handed drum, is also called just the tabla, and the left hand is the left hand drum, which is essentially the bass drum, is called the baya. The right hand drum is also called the daina. It consists of many different parts. It mostly has 3 or 4 different types of skin, and the middle black the black bullseye you see here is made out of a special combination of a kind of rock, uh, iron dust, and boiled rice. So it needs a lot of craftsmanship to get it done, mainly because not only are we looking forward for a exceptionally great crisp tonal quality, we're also looking forward to the fact that it has to be tuned properly. So us sitar players, we usually tune our sitar to C sharp or D. The tabla players, if I was going to play with a tabla player, or if I was going to play tabla with someone, for example another sitar player, I would first ask what scale the sitar player has chosen to tune it in. If he tells me, or if he or she tells me the sitar player is using the scale D like I do, then I would need a tabla, and by tabla I mean the right-handed drum. I need a tabla that can be tuned in the scale D. So I'm going to use the same tonic the main performer is going to perform in. So all the sides here you can tune with a hammer, and it takes some time to get used to, but it's supposed to give you a very clean one note, usually the sa. So this specific tabla is tuned in C sharp. It can be taken to D, but it was in C sharp, so I didn't bother to change it. And on my left hand, this is called the baya. So this is the bass drum. So you can have various modulations. The baya usually has just 2 strokes, just like the sitar, but you can have plenty of dynamics. So you can do this. The right hand has plenty of different strokes. So you have na, you have tin, you have thun, you have tete, you have dhere, and you have chik, and a lot of sounds. So what we have here is we have single strokes and compound strokes. For example, na and ghe is going to give you dha. Na, tin and ghe is going to give you dhin. So if you can differentiate between the sounds, so that's it for the basics of tabla. Now we are going to introduce taal. Now what is taal? Taal is a it is another name for a beat cycle. So in Indian classical or our kind of music, a lot of it which has derived from Indian classical in the first place, we use a lot of beat cycles just like in any other music. So starting from 4, we can go all the way up to 48, and we can also count in fractions. So you have 9.5, then you have 9, you have 10. So we're going to dig deeper into that in a more advanced lesson. Today's lesson is going to mostly consist of how to play teentaal, since all our taans are based on teentaal or the 16 beat cycle. So one thing that you need to remember about tabla is that the tabla is a mathematical instrument. What do I mean by that? I mean that it mostly works with numbers. So since it cannot really produce music through notes, it produces music through numbers, kind of like what any percussion instrument does. But here in the Indian system, we have various different ways of counting. The counting I'm going to show you mostly belongs to the north part of India, which means the North Indian classical music. Southern part of India, where we have Carnatic music, of course they have a different way of counting, and it's not going to match with whatever we are learning right now. So we have two most significant parts in an even beat cycle. So there are odd beat cycles as well. For example, 7, for example, 9, then you have 13, and you can do the math. 16 is obviously an even beat cycle taan. It is divisible by 2. So we are the most important beat of any beat cycle is usually the sum. The sum refers to the first beat of any beat cycle. So for example, if we are going to count to 16, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16, and then you can count from 1 again. So the where the cycle starts, that is going to be known as the sum. And then we have the kali. The kali is the second. If we divide the entire taal into 2 parts, the first beat of the second part is going to be known as the kali. So for example, if you divide 16 by 2, you're going to get 8. So the first, so for example, this is 8, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So I'm going to count 2 8s first, which I just did. Now if I count them all together but still being separate, so you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16. So the number 9 beat is also the beat which is the first beat of the second half. I'm going to say that to you again because it may get a bit confusing. The first beat of the second half of any even beat cycle is going to be known as the kali. So this is very important that you memorize this information right now, because from here whatever we are going to learn on the sitar will consist of these terms, the kali and the sum. Of course you have other taals that are odd time signatures, and they don't have a kali since it's not going to give you whole numbers when you divide it by 2. But for example, rupak. So I'm going to give you a couple of different examples of odd and even beat cycles, and we're going to try to figure out where the sum and the kali is. So let's try with teentaal, for example. So the teentaal, we're going to need to memorize the syllables as well. So for example, the teentaal is going to, if I recite it by mouth vocally, it's going to be dha dhin dhin dha, dha dhin dhin dha, na tin tin na, titte dhin dhin dha. So I like to think of 16 as 4 pockets of 4. So you have 4 different chambers that have 4 beats in them each. So 4 4, you add them up and you get 16. So I'm going to play the first 4 for you. It's dha dhin dhin dha. So one more time. That's the first 4. The second 4 is exactly the same as the first 4. So I'm going to play the first 8 now. So 2 pockets of 4s. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Now for 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16, the 9 is the kali, as we already discussed. So one more time. So here, if I play it all together, you're going to notice that the core design of teentaal, it's going to highlight the part where the kali starts to appear. In any tal which is divisible by 2, you're going to see some kind of a change that wasn't there. So the first half, for example, in teentaal has the bass drum, and then you suddenly don't have the bass anymore. The bass completely disappears. That signifies that it's the kali, only to come back again. So one more time I'm going to count with you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1. We're going to return to teentaal, but before we do that, let's try out some other taals. So for example, you have a beat called ek taal, which is 12 beat cycle. So I'm going to play 12. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let's figure out with the theory that I just told you a few moments back where the sum and the kali is. The sum is obviously the first beat, so this, the starting beat, dhin, that's going to be your sum. Now it's 12. How do we find out where the kali is? The simple math, you divide it by 2, which gives you 7. Which gives you 6. So if you have 2 6s and the first half, or the first beat of the first half is sum, the first beat of the second half is going to be kali. So that way you already counted the first 6. The second 6 starts from 7. So that 7th beat is going to be your kali. So if I count dhin dhin dhaghe tete kete tun na kat ta dhaghe tete dhin dha. So the significance on the 7 is the sudden silence with the cut. This is the cut. So that's the cut. Now let's play a tal called jhap tal, which is of 10 beats. So, and we are still going to count the sum and then try to figure out where the kali is. So the jhap tal goes. Likewise, since it's still an even beat cycle, the first beat is the first beat is the sum, and if we divide it by 2, we get 2 5s since it's 10. So the first 5 we let go. The starting of the second 5, which is the 6th beat, is going to be our kali. So it's dhi na dhi na ti na dhi na dhi na dhi na ti na dhi na. So those dhi I try to emphasize are the bass portions. So like teentaal, where the kali appears, the bass always the bass also goes away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that goes. Now I'm going to give you why it got its name, teentaal. So there, tal means clap or beats in Hindi and Bangla. So why does a 16 beat cycle got the name three taals or three claps. It's because, as I said, that you have four pockets of fours. What we do not emphasize is the khali beat. So the khali is occupying four beats, but we are also counting in syllables. So you have dhin, dha, dhin, dhin, dha, dha, dhin, dhin, dha. So every pocket of four we are counting as one clap. Do not confuse it with the term beats for now. So it's just the syllable counting. So dha, dhin, dhin, dha, dha, dhin, dhin, dha, na, tin, tin, na, te, te, dhin, dhin, dha. 1, 3, 4, 2. Second clap. 3, I did not clap, and 4. So you have 3 claps in total, which is why it's called teentaal. Now we are going to discuss how to identify teentaal and what else you need to know before we start playing the taans that I have taught you. So before that, you're going to have to download one of the many popular apps that we have. It can be iShala if you're using Apple. It can be iTabla Pro. You can also use Ria Studio. That's one of the best apps out there, but that is strictly for Windows and Mac. I think you have to buy it. You also have similar applications for Android, for Apple, for MacBooks, for Windows computers, but you're going to need a tabla from now, so I suggest that you get that. Also, it would be best if you have a friend who plays the tabla or started to learn the tabla and is around you. It would be best if you could practice together, because the tabla loop available on the software it's on a loop, so it's not going to give you many variations. You have to remember that if you have 10 tabla player friends and you ask them each to play teentaal at the same speed, chances are every one of them is going to have a different variation, because not every tabla player, in fact no two tabla players will play you the same teentaal. They're going to have slightly different flavors of hands, they're going to have slightly different understanding of dynamics, and of course personal choice. So they're going to have different variations, and the core purpose of the tabla player is, although to keep the beat, that person is also an artist. So he will be your co-artist while you play, and he will try to manipulate the taal, keeping the beat cycle perfect. He's going to try and introduce variations that further beautify whatever you're playing. So starting with the teentaal again, coming back, so we just have to keep identifying the sum and the khali, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to try for the first 5 cycles, I'm going to point out where the sum and the khali is, but later I'm going to keep on playing so that you can find out where the khali is. Of course I will try to emphasize with the tabla. So just for clarity, the sum, the first beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we are looking for the 1 and the 9. So dha, dhin, dhin, dha, dha, dhin, dhin, dha, na. Here goes. Sum, khali, sum, khali, sum, khali, sum, khali, sum, khali, sum, khali. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Your turn. So that's it for today's lesson. From the next lesson, we are going to understand how to use this tabla to play all that you have learned so far. Take care until then. See you on the next class. Bye bye.